You have your offensive staff. You hired your offensive line coach, which is not going to Ole Miss. He'll be here. You have a couple spots that are still available. Obviously, Frank Wilson's future is undecided. He talked about that a little bit today in his press conference. He is going to coach the bowl game. He has talked about there has been some conversations about a role, and there is a role. It's just a matter of what that looks like. And so his future is undecided, but you have, for the most part, you have your staff in place. And I guess my next question to that is not necessarily the staff, right? Because there's really we can talk all we want about what's Frank going to do, what he's not going to do. I think it just depends on, hey, does he want to be on the field or not on the field, or is there going to be a spot for him on the field here at LSU? I don't know all that. That's something that we've talked about a lot. But with Lane Kiffin being as good in the portal as he is, my question to y'all would be, what is the immediate needs that he has to go out and find answers for in the portal? I know what some people think, and I think I agree and disagree with that, but I want to hear y'all's opinion on that on what y'all think first, and then we can get into that.
I mean, I would imagine at the absolute top of the list, it's no surprise, right? You're at least looking for quarterback competition, if not for a replacement at that spot.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say. So I think that's kind of where you start, and then the rest of it's going to have to figure out. Obviously, you're going to lose some key pieces, but who exactly is going, and who do we think that there's an upgradable option for me out there to go and get? But I think that's the number one spot he's going to start, and I would imagine there's going to be some huge names, some huge opportunity out there in the portal to start anyway.
I agree. I think for me, you got to go and you got to fill – your strength is going to be, right now, as it stands, is your defense, right? So you go out there and you say, okay, we have a super talented freshman class of defensive linemen. Let's go supplement those guys with some defensive linemen that have some experience and are talented. Bring those in there so you have a nice rotation. You can't just play with 4 guys, 5 guys. You want to have a good rotation, right? I think the obvious concern for a lot of people is the offensive line. I agree. I think you go out there and you go find a couple pieces. I'm not so sure that they don't have some answers on the offensive line in-house, right? I know it was bad. I know it looked terrible. I know the offensive line was our biggest weakness. I get all of that, and I don't disagree. All right, I very much agree to that. But you can't. I am not sitting here today, and I believe that you believe this, Lloyd, and I think that you believe this, Jared, that if you go look at all of the offensive line recruits that we've brought in the last couple years, and you look at their recruiting ranking and their ability and their talent, I am not convinced that you missed on every single one of those guys. I think this has something to do with scheme and development. A combination of both, one or the other. I don't know what it is. I believe you have some guys on the offensive line right now that are going to be really good and be contributors for you next year and years coming. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I didn't know you were finished. Go ahead.
No, and so you have a new offensive line coach, and I think what's paramount is you have obviously the portal going on right now. People are putting their names in there, all this kind of stuff. They can't get signees in the portal until January, right? You can put your name in the portal, but you can't say I'm going
January 2nd.
You can't say I'm going anywhere until January 2nd, right? So that gives LSU's staff, new staff, a month of evaluation, right? And this isn't high school evaluation. This is, hey, we're going to evaluate what we got on the team right now. We're preparing for a bowl game. Some guys are going to opt out. Fine. The guys that are opting out are not going to be here next year. Fine. But we have the ability. We have an offensive line coach who will be here. He's not going to Ole Miss to coach in the playoff. He will be here evaluating the guys they've got currently on the roster. And I think that's a huge thing for LSU because they have the ability to have big-time practices with current players, and it's an audition for those guys for next year. And I believe this new offensive line coach can look at, hey, this is what we got. Look at this guy move. Look how he moves. Okay, there's a spot for him. I like him. I see his technique may be off, or maybe some of the things he's doing may be off. And I believe that there's going to be a few guys on the offensive line that look significantly better next year than they do this year. Now, I do think they're going to go get some guys, right? Braylon Moore, there's conversation about him potentially coming back, which We talked about
why
this.
He wouldn't.
Yeah, we talked about this off the show. He's not going to be a first-round pick or a second-round pick. I don't think he's a third-round pick right now. I think he's good. So why would you not come back with knowing you're going to have a better offense, knowing you have experience, and you're going to be the middle of that lineup, and you're hopefully going to be or middle of that offense line, and you know you're going to be healthy. So I think this next month is going to be huge for the staff and for the guys currently in the offensive line. I do believe they go get some guys to fill in some roles, but I don't think it's like, hey, we got to go get 5 or 6 transfer offensive linemen. I don't believe that.
Well, let me throw this at you too, because I think a lot of times we look at that spot like we maybe look at some of these other spots and think it's so singular about what's going on. 2 years ago, not 2 years ago. Yeah, I guess 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, right? The Will Campbell years on that, right? How many guys got drafted off of that offensive line?
4.
How well did they run the ball?
Not well.
Okay, right? And so the reason why I bring that up is 2 years later, you don't run the ball well 2 years in a row, but 1 year you got 4 draft picks. The next year, I don't think they're going to have any on this one, right? Maybe 1. I bring that up to say sometimes we look outside and think it's piece by piece, and maybe we're just not doing a really good job of working together as a unit.
Correct.
Maybe the way things were coached, maybe the way the offensive plays were run, maybe the way you kind of schemed up things, it didn't allow you to work well as a unit. So maybe the pieces are in the building, or a lot of the pieces are in the building, and now it's about how do we put this scheme together to do what we need, what we want to do, and which is to be able to run the ball effectively. Look, we all know, or at least we all think, that Lane's offense is about high flying, throw it here and there. But at the root of what he really wants to do is run the ball. So if this offensive line coach you're bringing in allows you to be able to have a more cohesive unit that works together, that allows you to run the ball better, it may not necessarily be, oh, we need another player here and this and that. It may be in the building already, but it's about style and how you fit it and how you run it and how they work together. I think that's probably a big part of what may have been missing over the last 2 years in terms of the running game.
Let me go through this real quick. You have Carius Kern, true freshman. Braylon Moore, redshirt junior. Paul Mubanga, look, I know everybody's all, but he has experience. He's a redshirt sophomore. Solomon Thomas was a guy that they expected big things from. He got hurt beginning of the season. He's a true freshman. He'll be a redshirt freshman next year. Tyree Adams had a lot of time. I would imagine when Tyree was healthy, he was probably the best offensive lineman they had this year. He's a redshirt sophomore. You have Weston Davis. I know everybody hates that name right now, but he's a redshirt freshman. My point is, Ori Williams, redshirt freshman, right? DJ Chester's a redshirt sophomore. My point in saying that is you have a bunch of guys that are very young and that were highly touted coming into LSU and got experience. Doesn't mean that they weren't good. A lot of them weren't great, but they got a lot of experience, which is invaluable. So you have these guys that aren't going to be green when it comes to SEC play, and now you put in a system that's going to be a lot more
conducive
to having success. And I'm not so sure you don't have answers in-house right now.
Yeah, well, you say those names, and what I look at is the build of these folks. Carius Kern, 6'5", 320. Tyler Miller, 6'6", 335. Paul Mubanga, 6'5", 317. Solomon Thomas, 6'4", 325. Tyree Adams, 6'7", 310. Ethan Callaway, 6'7", 305.
Weston Davis, 6'7", 317.
Yeah, like
Ori Williams,
6'8", 335. Cohen Eccles, 6'4", 350. Like, they can't all be bad.
Right.
Like, it's not like they're physically limited. And so it must be something else, and you can't go and get all of those are high 4 stars to 5 stars. You're telling me all 8 of them suck?
My point.
Like, that just, I find that hard to believe. So you do have answers, and to your point, they all were young. They were all very young, and they were all kind of thrown in the fire, and you tried to supplement a little bit in the portal. You brought in, You brought in Braylon Moore, obviously, and you brought in Josh Thompson. Josh Thompson is a
solid college player.
That is a Big Ten offensive lineman if I've ever seen one. Right. Like, that's just, I'm just going to go grab you and move you. I'm going to try. A lot of throw up in the helmet.
Well, and I'm not a read option guy. I'm not a zone read guy. I'm gonna put my hand on the ground. I'm gonna go forward and get you.
Right.
And drop you off the ball.
But I just find it so, because everybody's gonna shit on all of these guys, right?
Correct.
Every time you talked about offensive line play at LSU, I've never known an offensive line more than I've known this one. because everybody knows their names. Because like, oh look, there he is again, getting spun around like a top. And it's I just don't understand.
Let me give you a little bit of an example. And we always go back to 2019, and it's easy to do it. And don't even look at what they did as far as winning the national championship and being the best team ever in the history. The biggest question mark that year was what? Going into the year? Offensive line. How is the offensive line going to play? We don't really know. They ended up winning the Joe Moore Award for being the best group in college football. Why is that? One, because I think they were talented. But I think more than that was they were in the right scheme. Right? You had a quarterback that helped them have success. You had a offensive play caller that helped them have success. It's not, you can't just fall all in one group. Oh, they suck. I don't think they suck because they weren't talented. I think they suck because it was a combination of a lot of things. Very young, and I don't think the scheme helped them out at all. And I think that's something that isn't talked about enough, as the scheme and the way that offensive play calling is called, I think goes a long way for helping an offensive line be successful. Would you agree, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And that's kind of what I was alluding to, is kind of the way you're working as a group, the way it's being put together, the play calling, the sequencing of the play calling and how those things work. Look, sometimes if that's how things are going to go, it makes it really tough for offensive linemen to get aggressive, which is why over 2 years, they have not run the ball well. Well, 2 years ago, they had 4 draft picks on offensive line. What sense does that make for you to not be able to run the ball well when you have that up front? So I think a lot of those things, if they're changed and you allow these guys to kind of work in an aggressive way, if you will, maybe the running game changes a lot. And I think that's one of the biggest things you're going to be able to bring in. And I'm not going to sit here and say, no, they're not bringing anybody in. Once again, we don't know who's going to be available. We don't know where the upgrade is going to be viewed that you can go and grab one at a value spot. But with that being the case, I'm not so sold that who is in the room they just can't get the job done.
Right.
So I think that they have a lot of potential there. It's how can we pull out what's already in there?
Correct. And
I mean,
go ahead.
Do we know anybody? Obviously, like I said, we watched LSU very intently. Have you ever heard a whisper about Ole Miss's offensive line? No, because you don't have to see him because the way the scheme works. I do think people get confused about what Lane Kiffin does offensively. He likes to run the football.
That's what Jared said. His offense is predicated on running the football. You think that he's going to throw the ball? It's not the Mike Leach throw it 65 times a game. You have to run the football, and that's what he likes to do. I mean, look at his running backs that he's had at Ole Miss, right?
Lane straight up came out and said he thought their offense could have been a whole lot better last year had they been able to run the ball the way they wanted to.
Right.
And he said, I think really the big reason why they had a lot of success and the success they've had this year is because they've been able to run the ball the way that they've been able to run the ball. They had a 19-year-old kid who's got like 20 touchdowns on the season.
Right.
So things like that matter, right? And that's not just coming because we have a talented back. We're doing things right up front. Yeah. And I think that's what he's going to look to do when he comes in and he really puts his stamp on this LSU offense and how they play ball.